welcome back to Containing Luxury. On this episode, we're going to be covering what this shipping container actually cost me as a general contractor to build. What's up, pups? Let's get started. So before we get started on this video, there's going to be a link in the description for the PDF download of the complete cost breakdown of this build, everything we're going over today. So make sure to check out, link in the description. Chickadee check. 1, 2. Chickadee check. 1, 2. I know we did a previous cost video that we went over like what's the cheapest you can build a 40-foot shipping container home for. $17,320. But there was a lot of different factors that made that price come to that conclusion. In this video, we're actually going to be covering what this shipping container actually cost me as a general contractor to build in a do-it-yourselfer type of application. So if we start at the top, the materials are the used shipping container. Now, if you go back to our original, if you followed our series when we first started our channel, we bought this shipping container for about $2,400 locally from a guy that wasn't that far away, maybe a mile away. So we paid $2,400 for the shipping container itself. The next line item was the transportation of that shipping container. The transportation cost us $500 to move that container like a mile away. So right there, we're at $2,900 just for the purchase and getting it to the property here, which still took a lot more. We had to jack it up and level it and set it on kind of concrete blocks. Again, this is not on a foundation. And when this container gets to where it's going to go, it will be on a foundation, and we'll cover that. So there are no foundation costs in this estimate. That's my disclosure. Back to the costs. The next line item we have is for the materials for the window frames. This is kind of how I bought this stuff in the build process as well. So that's these aluminum cladding pieces, which are actually aluminum roofing fascia caps. So when I built my wood frame windows, which if you go back to our first build when we did non-welded window frames, we doubled up 2x4s and that aluminum cap slid perfectly right over the top of it. So it gave us something nice to seal to and weather resistant. Those frames alone, I counted up that we went through 14 of them, and they were $38 a piece, equaling $532 just for the aluminum cap that we put on our window frames. So the next line item we went to was our building materials for framing. So this was our interior 1 5/8" metal framing that we picked up from a local building supply house around here. Some Home Depots, you may be able to find them, but that is one of those products that usually Home Depot is going to be double the cost on metal framing. Wood framing, you might as well get it there. It's about the same cost everywhere. But in this case, Marjam was about half the cost for our 1 5/8" 20 gauge metal framing. I spent $550 on that metal framing. The next line item was actually our insulation foam boards. I did pick that up from Home Depot, and those were $25 a piece, and I went through 46 of them, equaling $1,150. The next line item was our decking, but in this case, not outside decking, it's our floor decking, because on this build, we actually put a 1-inch foam board across the entire floor, and then put a 5/8" plywood over the top of it, which we screwed down through the foam board into the plywood subfloor that was original to the container. That decking cost us about $250 for the plywood floor that we sandwiched in between the insulation. Or sorry, that was the bread of the sandwich with the insulation. The next line item we have is for the impact rated windows and doors. So again, we kind of purchased a lot of the materials, we did a lot of the stuff, but the very first thing we wanted to do, because it was burning hot inside, was cut all of our window openings. So you'll kind of notice some of these materials I'm picking up are all stuff I'm gonna need right away. And with the way that we attached our window frames, I actually needed the interior framing to be going in at the same time, because it's actually screwed into that, so we don't have welded frames on this one. We do on our new build, but again, this container here. Now, if you're not familiar with impact rated windows and doors, I'm from Minnesota originally, we didn't have these. Down here, impact rated windows are like, now they're our new code. You pretty much have to put them in, or you have to have some type of hurricane protection because we have really high winds and we're in a hurricane zone. So that impact rated rating means that a 2x4 can be launched directly at the window at 188 miles an hour and it will not penetrate through the window. The window will still break, but it's really strong laminated glass, so it will cave in and collapse, but it won't completely go in, and it's meant to withstand a lot more force. Now that also gives it a little bit better of an insulation rating as well. So when building this, the whole concept was to build super strong, really energy efficient housing. So we did not chintz out on our windows. We went with impact rated windows, which is why this section at $3,600, it only covers, we have 3 big windows on the exterior. We have 1 opaque window in our bathroom, which just means it's like frosted glass. And then we have 1 decently sized window above our kitchen sink. We have our entry door right here, and we have a sliding door on the end. That totaled $3,600. Again, no labor, nothing, just that was what I paid at Home Depot for those windows and doors. The next line item we have is cabinetry. So this was my cost again as a building contractor, so I know where to get all this stuff. So we got really nice white shaker, plywood boxes, soft close hinges, soft close drawers, and we only paid $2,375 for our cabinetry. We actually needed to assemble it ourselves and install it, but overall the cost for $2,300 to include all of the kitchen cabinets we have in here, both lowers and uppers, and then also the vanity cabinets, which equaled about 60 inches, and it was comprised of 3 total cabinets. So it's quite a bit of cabinetry for $2,375. Again, contractor cost. The next line item we have is for our vinyl flooring. That was the tongue and groove. You can check out the video of installing the flooring, that they interlock together. They're really easy to cut. You can cut them with a utility knife. And that floor is, with the underlayment, we paid about $2.50 a square foot. The container itself is 320 interior square feet. You actually have a little bit of waste on that, but in our case, we had very little waste because we put in the entire shipping container floor and then we put our walls in. If you have a question about that, hit us in the comments, we'll explain why. But that came out to about $800 total in flooring. Drywall. Now, again, I'm not going to use drywall on my next builds. I can explain that, and I will explain that on our ShipLab video on our current build, so stay tuned for that one. The drywall in here was actually pretty costly because we hired our local drywall and drywall contractor to come in, hang, and finish. So he charged me $2,000 for labor and material to get that done. It was a decent amount of work because we have a lot of walls and wing walls and all the different stuff, so there's a lot of little pieces and it's not like hanging big full sheets, you know, you have ceilings, walls. It was quite a bit of work, so I was okay paying that because he also included priming it at that cost. I again hired our electrical contractor to come in, but he gave me a contractor price because he's a buddy of mine and he does all of our electrical work. So labor and materials for our entire electrical system on this shipping container cost us $1,950. So plumbing, we spent $2,300. And that seems like quite a bit for this little container. But what you need to remember, and especially as a contractor, is you're still building everything that costs a lot in construction. I still have a bathroom, I still have a kitchen. So those are where most of your money goes into because you have countertops, you have sinks, faucets, you have a water heater, you have shower drains, you have a shower pan, you have shower walls, you have all the trim kits, all these different things, which came out to $2,300 just in materials for all those major components, which did include my little under the sink water heater. Ooh, lunch. Thanks, Rachel.
Oh, yeah, I know that's my reference.
This is what happens when you're stuck at home. Film videos, do construction estimates for things you already built. Oh, that's good. And we drank tons of coffee. So remember, Blackout Coffee Co. So the next major expenditure we had was the HVAC system, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So we again hired a contractor, our local HVAC contractor that we use for a lot of our builds. That HVAC contractor got us a really nice energy efficient system in which he installed for $1,750. Sorry if I'm wearing sunglasses, it's really bright outside. The next line item, which was actually really expensive, was the only appliance I included in this build. Now, since then, we've actually added a couple of things, but the fridge was the big one, and I was having a tough time trying to find a fridge that matched our modern contemporary look. So I spent $1,200 on a refrigerator. And it's really cool and it's modern and it's got a double drawer freezer thing and French door, and it's small and counter depth. So that is very difficult to find. And it's funny, that's what you'll find with a lot of this build. The stuff that you need to fit into certain areas are gonna cost you way more than if you had a big open floor plan. So take that into consideration. If you need to find a specialty size of something, it's usually gonna cost you more. And in this case, I paid $1,200 for essentially a mini fridge. Next interior line item is the interior paint. So that was painting all the ceilings, painting all the walls, the baseboards, the door casing, all the trim, everything. That was about $1,200. I subcontracted that to our local paint contractor, and it was pretty expensive, but he drove and picked up all the product. He sent 2 guys here, and they were here for actually, I think, 2 days. It was quite a bit of work. But still, maybe I overpaid a little bit, but I'm all into giving guys work. They had a gap in their schedule they needed to fill, so I let them come here and paint it for us. After we paint, then we have millwork. So on the millwork, we have all of our baseboards, interior doors, handles, miscellaneous little built-ins, and some of our furniture stuff that we kind of had to build in place. About $900. A roofing system. So we put an aluminum roof, which is almost like a aluminum awning roofing system, that we built a roofing structure, and then we put all these 12-foot aluminum panels in, and then we had that same gutter fascia or that cap that we put here actually slides over those panels. So on that roofing section, we actually spent $2,400. So that was not cheap at all. After our roofing system, we actually put our new substructure, and which was the 2x4s that we ripped down, or 2x6s that we ripped down, we glued and fastened to the side. So we had a substructure, and then all of our siding. Now again, on this container, we kind of showed you a bunch of different things that we could do, from some of the wood to the galvanized roofing panels to Trex decking. Now this was pretty expensive because just the Trex section cost me $1,000. Trex decking is super expensive. You probably do not want to cover your entire container in Trex decking because it would cost you a fortune. This was probably the most cost effective, but since I did all these different things and I had that substructure, the siding was actually pretty costly for me and cost me $2,200 just for this one side. So then we have the back half that we put siding on. Now, if you watch that video, we actually did the same substructure, but we put a 1-inch foam board as additional insulation, and then we put cedar siding over that. Now, if you're somewhere in the northern states where cedar is abundant, it's probably a lot cheaper than it is down here in South Florida. Cedar was super expensive at our local building supply and at Home Depot. So I ended up spending $2,245 on all the trim pieces and our cedar siding and substructure for that back building, or the back half of the container. So that was pretty expensive as well. So total into my outside siding, I had $2,200 plus the $2,245. So total exterior siding, I have $4,445. Pretty expensive for siding a 40-foot container. Now, I did use cool stuff. We did a bunch of accents, and there was quite a bit of labor inside, but again, that wasn't factored into this. We're only looking at what it cost me. If you watched our build video, we actually sprayed the entire container down with a product called Stay Cool because we wanted to show what your alternative options were. You didn't need to put siding on it, and that product did drastically reduce the heat load on the container. It was literally staying cool. That I think is worth it to do, even if you're going to cover it later. It's just an added layer of sun protection, and it kept me cool before I got to the putting the siding on and reducing the heat load on the metal itself. So it made it nice and cool inside. So the Stay Cool product was $500. Now we did, because ours was a used container again, that did have another purpose of sealing all the rust and putting a nice siliconized surface over the whole thing and waterproofing it. So again, since the roof was a little bit dented and had signs of wear of being out in the sun for a long time, we actually bought a siliconized roofing product and put that over the entire roof of the container, waterproofing it before we even put our roof on, just in case water ever got in there. And that product for the siliconized roofing that we put on there was $350. So the total for the coatings on the exterior of the container home was $850. The only labor that I had in this was miscellaneous days where I needed an extra hand, or I had some free time and I needed to keep my guys working, so I put them to work here helping me do some siding or helping me hold something while I was putting it in. And I probably spent about 10 days here with a helper of some sort. So if you have to pay that helper, you're probably looking at about 80 man hours and $25 an hour. It broke down to about $2,000 in miscellaneous helper labor that you're really gonna need, because there are stages of this you just can't do by yourself. Or you can, but you're gonna have to, it's gonna be a pain. I'd rather just pay somebody to help me when I need the hands. Now, that came out to a grand total. If we added all of these things up, everything we did on the inside and the outside, we're at a grand total of $32,952. Yep. So I looked at the cheapest I could build one, and that was about $17,000. And I said, really, there's going to be some, some plus or minuses in there. So you probably want to factor about $20,000. This one cost me, as a general contractor, $32,952. That is quite a bit of money, considering you, again, have zero labor and you didn't have to buy any tools for this. So I literally built 90% of this thing myself. That was not an easy process. It took me a ton of time. So yeah, this thing cost me $32,952, quite a bit of money. Could you be a little bit cheaper than this? Yeah, absolutely. There's different ways, but this video was what did this container cost me to build as a general contractor? Because you might love the one that we have in the video. And we've covered what's the cheapest you can do one. This one's, I would say, like of the middle of the road, and we could definitely go a lot higher end and really nice with this, but that's probably gonna push you into the $50,000 range. Doing nice metal cladding and doing big glass walls and really high-end cabinetry. And so, I mean, you can really get crazy with it. But I think for what we built here, this is the absolute best bang for the buck. And that was the goal of this build, was to build it really nice, really aesthetically pleasing, but on a budget. And I think that's really where you're gonna hit that $35,000 mark for a container home like this. So we hope this video's been successful? No, that's not the word at all. We hope this video has been helpful. And if it has, make sure to like and subscribe. We are, again, in an educational series. We're teaching people how to build container homes. We're bringing the real dollar amounts, no extras, of sharing literally the financials of what it costs as a general contractor to do something like this. So we appreciate all the support that anyone can do to, hit our Patreon account. We also have a GoFundMe if you're not following our current build. Really cool process. Make sure to stay tuned to that. All right, guys, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Containing Luxury out. Back to lunch.